Hello, and welcome to another episode of What I Learned on my MBA today. It's Tuesday, the 4th of October, and about nearly halfway through our second full week, and it is scary how fast things are going. In fact, this afternoon I started thinking a bit about elective modules which are for the spring term, so we don't have to actually choose until mid-November, but it's certainly time to start thinking in greater detail. I think my choice is probably going to be between the three. I need to take two. So I'm probably going to end up, from what I can see at the moment, taking corporate finance. So corporate finance being further financial management on top of the financial management core. I'd wondered whether this was really worth doing, not being a finance director or an investment banker, but Alison, who runs the course, described it as being the level of financial knowledge that your average board member should know today. So all things about valuing companies, figuring out NPVs, that kind of thing, which I don't know, and it feels like the sort of thing that's going to be probably one of the most useful modules in the really long run. And it's certainly a good opportunity to learn some of that stuff. Then there's the sustainability elective, which is firstly a topic that I'm extremely interested in, ethical business in general, and it's sustainability of not just environmental issues impacting businesses, but also how to actually build a business that's going to be successful in the long term. And that's just something that really appeals to me. So probably going to take that one. And then one that I'm less likely to take, but likely to maybe sit in on some of the lectures for, is the entrepreneurship one. I say less likely, and I'm one of the few people I think are probably not going to take it, because I'm probably less likely to actually run a startup business myself in the first place. Secondly, I think the module feels like it's very heavily focused around tech startups, and even if I did start a business, it wouldn't be in that kind of area. The reason I say I would sit in on the lectures is because they will be talking a lot about identifying opportunities, qualifying them, and also a bit around structuring companies. So there's certainly going to be some interesting things to learn. I mentioned yesterday that today we'd be looking at a case study around the Cirque du Soleil in managing people. That wasn't actually quite as light and enjoyable as I thought it would be. Certainly not quite as light as one of their performances. Don't know how familiar you are with Cirque du Soleil. They're a Quebec-based group that really take gymnastics and acrobatics and such things, not to mention sort of general performance art, to a completely different level. Very, very impressive live shows. I've been fortunate enough to see a few, and it's incredible when you see it and looking at the amount of work that goes in behind the scenes. It's one of those things where you think, I never realised that there was so much went into one of these, but on the other hand, is it actually surprising? I don't think it is, in some ways. When you look at how complex it must be, it's one of those. It must be. There must be that much work. Essentially, their human resources and associated processes are exceptional, which they have to be. Interestingly, they're one of these businesses that I'd almost describe as being a brand cult. So you've got places like Google and Amazon as similar, I think. I'd describe a brand cult is where the employees that you have really, really buy into the brand and what it means and how it works. And the reason I say cult is it's taking the old idea of a personality cult and applying it to a brand. Personality cults where people follow a particular leader regardless of what they might do. and to the extent that they follow that leader rather than the principles to which they have should technically be ascribed. A brand cult. If you look at Amazon, when that article came out, was it last year already, talking about how awful some of the management practices were at Amazon, how horrible the culture could be, which does seem to be the case. We had LinkedIn particularly was inundated for a few weeks with articles by current Amazon employees talking about how much they absolutely loved it and raving about how much they loved the culture and there's nothing wrong with it and that person just some weird misfit and there's something wrong, And you think, well, these are the people who really love what that is, what they stand for. And that's the cult. They've bought into this cult. And the same thing with Google. Google employees love it and rave about how they work. And they're so productive. Right, and the reason they're so productive, they never go home, they never sleep. They don't have to. Your ideal Google employee, you could almost say, is the person who is happy sitting, living in the trailer in the car park because they don't ever want to leave. That's the sort of person who buys into that, and it's fine. That's really the key aspect. Is it's okay for people to do that. Please don't force it on everyone else. I think Cirque du Soleil is a similar kind of thing. You are signing away several years of your life if you go in as a performer. It's clear that it's 100% that they will take care of people's families. They provide all the entertainment and supports and everything they could possibly need. But you are signing away your life, and I think it's one way to run a business, and certainly to run something that intensive. It's probably you have to. But reading about it, it felt to me very similar to when I was doing my my master's in strategy, hearing about people talking about life in the military. You sign away several years. And I need to ask Florian about that tomorrow because Florian was a German military officer for over 10 years, and so it'd be interesting to get his perspective. So yes, brand cult of the personality, cult of the brand. I'm sort of just made that up really today, but I like the idea, and let's see if it goes anywhere. What else? Tomorrow we're talking about McDonald's. McDonald's is the slogan. Well, let's face it, you could probably get a worse burger if you looked really hard. That's not how they sell themselves. Actually, the question around the McDonald's case study is, what is the case study itself? We haven't got the questions yet, but the case study is looking at how McDonald's has first created this idea of high dependability, a very high consistency of product at a low cost, maintaining a set level of quality. I feel bad saying high quality, but they do care about what quality it is. It's very consistent. And it's the timing, the throughput of the kitchen side. And then how that fits when you try to take it a bit more upmarket. My group and I were discussing whether or not McDonald's are almost falling into that trap that you see occasionally of if you might call a value brand, or it seems odd calling fast food a niche market, given it was supposed to be such a mass market thing, but you've got a product which appeals to a very specific group of people. If you try to take that up market, are you actually going to be able to get that market that you're trying to get into? Because fundamentally, although in survey, I suspect this is how it came about, in surveys people said, no, I don't eat at McDonald's because I don't like that, they don't have salads, say. So some smart person said, well, if we make salads, then maybe these people will come. And they didn't. And perhaps the reason they didn't is because it wasn't even on their radar. Sorry, just dropping you again there. Looks like everything's okay. Not on the radar because the brand's wrong for them. On the other hand, you could argue that as things have moved on since the 50s, is it the case now that some variety in a menu is no longer... are you familiar with the Kano model? So Kano saying that you have things that you have to just be... you have to have in order to be in the game. Then you've got things which, if you improve them, make everyone happier. And you've got things which no one expected, but they're delighted if they exist. Is it the case that variety in a menu used to be on this slope of performance indicators, things that you want, and the more you have, the better it is? But has it got to the point where actually, because what happens is these things do drop down, has variety become something you need to have? 30% of McDonald's sales come from 3 products, which is the basic burger, the Big Mac, and the chicken nuggets. Or at least it did at the time of writing the case study. So 30% from 3 products is significant. Could it be that if they stuck to only those products, that actually they'd drop a lot of the market? Because it's nice to know that you could choose something else. I think that's where the market today is fundamentally different to in the 50s. People have become more aware of things. Even if they don't make the choice, they like to feel they have choice. You think back to the real, almost what today looks like a real monoculture in the 50s. Look at some old photos, look at how different that world was. We've really come a long way. Not, you could argue whether or not it's for the better, but certainly very different. Interesting aspect actually with the case study. And I'm not 100% convinced by this one. The case was arguing that if you compare McDonald's to some other other fast food places in America, I'm pretty sure it's a milkshake specialty place. I'm not really familiar with American fast food brands that to enough of an extent to really be sure about this, but they're saying that if you look at the... what was it? It was the revenue per product. Yes, revenue per specific product. McDonald's range is obviously too big because their revenue per product is about $20,000 per franchisee, whereas some of these other chains, it could be $60,000. I want to see more information on that, because what bothers me is if you have 100 products and you make X average revenue per product, you could still be doing an awful lot better and be more profitable than someone who's got 2 products and makes Y revenue per product, where Y is significantly higher than X, simply because the total numbers might just be very different. And you can't tell from the case study, but that's the sort of thing that really bothers me. I'm hoping that that's what people mean when they say that they want us to develop critical thinking skills, because we would very much like that to be, because that was interesting. We actually understand it. So on that note, I will leave you. Let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, etc. And we'll see you again tomorrow after we've had maybe a bit more insight into what's actually going on with McDonald's and their menu. So, good night.